there, and welcome to Marty Brown Outdoors. Had some people asking questions about different types of clothing and how to stay dry and warm in the wintertime, whether you're hiking, hunting, fishing, rock climbing, doing anything outside. A lot of people that are either new getting into different outdoor sports, or just the young kids coming up through like the high school and college bass angler stuff, or just getting into outdoor adventures that don't really understand how to dress right. I know growing up it was kind of a trial and error thing. Didn't have all the information available to us. So I've got quite a few years of experimenting through all my different activities with between hunting, fishing, hiking, caving, and outdoor sports of all kinds. So I'm going to talk about socks today. But before I get started, I want to start about heat transfer and heat loss, because that is really important when you start talking about clothing. I've been a firefighter for a long time, and that's what I do for a living. But a lot of this stuff applies. It's basically, they call it physics now. They call it plumbo science when I was in high school. But it's basically the theory of heat exchange. The main three ways that your body is that heat's gonna conduct, and your body's gonna lose or gain heat, is through conduction, convection, and radiation. Those are the three main ones that you want to worry about. And what that is, conduction is direct contact. Like if you got a metal pot that's been on the stove and you reach and grab the handle's hot, that's because the heat is conducted out through that pot through direct contact to that handle and heated it up, and the heat will travel through a solid object pretty quick. The next thing is convection, and convection is heat traveling through air currents. This is not a really efficient way of transferring heat. It's actually how you heat your home, but as far as in direct, it's a little bit slower as far as your body losing heat. As long as you can keep the air currents from moving and stop any air from moving, you'll be all right. The main thing is keep the wind off of you. And when it comes to talking about clothing and socks with this air current, with the air, to cut down on convection is you don't want to have any air movement, but you want to have air space in there so that you're not pushing out all the air in there, and then once you squeeze all the air out of your clothing, you basically create a conduction type situation where you're not really insulated anymore. If the cold's on the outside of your clothes, it's going to push right through to your body if you don't have that air in there. And the radiation is just plain old what most people think about keeping warm, just holding your body heat in, which your body naturally gives off heat. The sun gives off heat. Heat reflects off water. If you're hiking or fishing in a boat or in a bright colored boat, you'll notice that you can get a lot more heat coming off of the water. Or if you're in town, in the city, it'll be 10-15 degrees warmer than it is out in the country, because of the radiated heat that absorbs into the asphalt and the concrete, and it radiates it back up, versus the earth out in the country with the grass and everything. It kind of absorbs it and doesn't radiate it back off, and that's basically what we're looking at. So mainly for your feet, you want to stop the radiation. You don't want to lose your radiated heat, but you want them to be able to breathe, because that way some moisture can get out, and you don't want to trap all your airspace. So if you have boots that are really tight fitting, they're probably not going to be warm, so you don't want to try to put 3 or 4 pairs of socks on and get them inside a boot, and you get in there and your foot's all smushed up. Once you get in there, chances are you're probably going to be not comfortable, and you're going to be cold, because there's no airspace in there to stop the conduction of the heat loss. Alright, since we covered that, now let's look at a few pairs of socks here. Start off, cotton socks, leave them at home. They're good for running around the house, running around town, but that's about it. Matter of fact, I've pretty much quit wearing cotton socks altogether. First sock I want to look at is a liner sock. Good for real active people or somebody that sweats a lot. If you use a synthetic blend sock, like a cotton polyester blend, some of your insulated socks, I got a pair over here that's a cotton poly blend, you really need it to help keep the moisture off of your feet, because if your feet get wet, they're going to get cold. And liner socks like these, they help prevent blisters if you're hiking, and some people have problems with blisters. Maybe their boots are a little bit loose, or the socks they're wearing just don't fit just right. a liner sock will help hold it tight and help reduce blisters also. These are actually Cabela's Outfitter brand liner socks. I've had these for a long time. I wear them occasionally. Since I've got started on the wool socks, I really don't wear a liner sock much anymore. This is one of the polycotton wool blend socks here, polycotton blends with a polyester sock. It's basically just a thick layers of polyester and cotton, and on the inside you've got the loose open fabric in there, and that's where your air gap comes in. If you can see the fuzzy look, all that airspace and that fuzzy look, that's what traps air. That's where you want that dead space of air to be, and that's what's going to hold your warmth in. Like I said, if you compress that out, then you're back to a conduction situation to where the cold from the outside of your boot is going to go, and all you have is what little material here between your foot and the boot to keep the cold from coming in instead of an airspace. We'll start off simple for not so cold weather or the hikers out there. You can look at these. This is a Smart Wool PhD hiker sock. These socks are wonderful. They're not real heavy, which if you're hiking a lot of long distance, you usually don't need a lot on your feet because you'll sweat anyway. But these, I've hiked in these down into the 30s and go for miles. They have a lot of elasticity in them. You can see how they're pretty well formed. That's because they've got a lot of elastic in the areas around your ankle and your foot, which helps hold them tight, which doesn't allow them to stretch out, and it keeps them snug on your feet. So they're able to transfer the moisture and keep your feet dry, as well as not slip and slide on your feet and cause blisters. So that's a great sock. And all the Smart Wool stuff is merino wool, which is about the best fabric out there for socks these days. And I've really become a fan of the Smart Wools. There's several brands out there. I've got a pair of Cabela's brand over here that are pretty good socks too. They're a boot sock for hunting. But for hiking, this is my choice, the Smart Wool PhD sock in ankle length. Then we'll get back. These here, you'll notice I got a couple different socks. They all kind of look the same. There's a little bit difference in color, you'll notice. But most of them are pretty similar, so when I order them, I get different colors in each sock. So I keep one sock one color and the next weight sock the next, because these are, once again, the Smart Wool. This is called the Light Hiker, and it's not really a really lightweight sock, but it feels good on your foot. And with these Smart Wool hiking socks, the light, medium, and heavy they're referring to is basically the amount of cushion under your foot, which would be this area here. These socks still are, they're a little bit thinner on the top, which helps them fit better. They have some elastic in them, so they helps hold them too. So they do pretty good hiking as well, but they're great for hunting, fishing, everyday wear around the house. Actually, when I do my 24-hour shifts at the fire department and at the ambulance, these are what I usually wear, are the Smart Wool Light Hiker or Medium Hiker if it's real cold, just for a little bit of extra insulation. So I'm really a good fan of these, and you can see the insides are a tighter weave than the synthetic blend sock I was showing you a minute ago. You can see it's not as open and loose. It's a real tight weave merino wool. It's a real durable sock. And as you can see, this sock's a little more shade of a gray. The other one was a taupe color. This is a medium hiker Smart Wool sock. Basically the same thing. You got good elastic up around the ankle cuff, a little bit along the top here. And then the gray portion down here, that's your padding part, and that's where the medium comes in on it. It's a little bit thicker padding on it, which, you know, if you have big boots, that'll help take up the room in there. It gives you a little bit more insulation from the cold and makes your feet a little more comfortable. It's a great sock. Like I said, I wear these to work at the fire department. I like to wear these fishing when it's not really, really cold, just for the fact that they're comfortable and they don't really grip your feet real tight, and they keep them dry and they breathe and don't let you sweat much. Now getting into some of my hunting socks. This is a Cabela's Outfitter merino wool sock. You can see the Cabela's logo there on the side. These are several years old. This is basically built a lot like the Smart Wool PhD sock. It's got an elastic cuff. You can see the black lines on the top here. That represents basically elastic where it helps hold it tight to your foot. And then the darker color is more of the insulated part of the sock and the toughness on it. But it's still merino wool. I forget how much these were, but they're still a great sock from Cabela's. I like it. It's a little bit different from the Smart Wool, but it does the same. It does the same job. It's a good sock. All right, this sock here was an experiment. I bought these. These are Smart Wools also. This is the Smart Wool Heavy Trekking Sock, and I was wondering, I was like, why? What's a trekking sock going to be for? And what they've done with this sock is, it's obviously it's a little heavier material, but what they've done is on the bottom here, you can look at it. It's a lot heavier weave. The sock material is a real tight, thick weave, so it's a lot more durable. It's built for durability. It's got the sewn-in heel cuff with the elastic and everything. This sock is just designed to take more wear. You can see all the insides of it. And you can see how thick the merino is on this thing. And then the outside layer, the weave on it is probably 2 to 3 times heavier than the light and medium hiker over there as far as the thickness and durability of the weave. Okay, you can see that is the trekking sock right here, and this is the medium hiker, and you can see a big difference in the weave of them. This is a lot more coarse, a little heavier. It's a coarser, heavier sock than this, where this is a smoother, softer, not quite as durable. These are durable socks. One thing I did find out about the Smart Wool trekking sock after many miles of use, I had these on one of my 80-mile hikes, and great sock, really comfortable, but the thickness of them and the padding will actually compress down. So after you walk a few miles in the morning when you put your boots on, I always have to stop and retighten my boots so I don't get blisters, because what happens is the padding in them will start compressing down, and once it gets compressed down, then you can readjust your boots and you're good to go for the rest of the day. You can move on. This is a Smart Wool hunting sock. Yeah, I know it sounds like a Smart Wool commercial, but it's what I have confidence in. I like their products and they've treated me well, so that's pretty much what I got. So this is one of my socks I wear deer hunting. Whether I'm wearing my leather boots or my muck boots, ankle weight, rubber boots. This is what I like to wear, these and my boot socks. These are really warm. They're a thicker weave, a lot like the heavy trekking sock. Just a little more insulation on the top of the foot. Reinforced in the toe and the heel. And good elastic on them, so they stay up if you're having to walk around and hike through the hills. You don't have to worry about your socks sliding down. Like I said, this is called the Smart Wool hunting sock here. That's what that one is. And this is the Smart Wool boot sock. It is made for obviously wearing like your muck boots and stuff like that, your rubber boots that are, calf length boots that you just slip on. Really tall sock, help keep everything insulated. And then the bottom again, you've got the coarser weave, so it's more durable, and the reinforcement thicker in the toe and the heel area. And that's another Smart Wool boot sock. Alright, now that we've talked about socks, that's pretty much a good overview of the different socks. There's a lot of different options out there. figure out what works for you. This is a good start. Like I said, if you're going to be hiking, if you're hunting in the mountains where you're doing a lot of ridge climbing and stuff like that, look for like the PhD type or the hunting type sock that's got a lot of elastic in it. It's going to stay snug on your foot and it's not going to stretch out and cause you problems. Okay, now that we've talked about the socks, I want to back up a little bit and talk about boots, footwear, insoles, stuff like that. These things can make a big difference in how happy your feet are. I used to never put a lot of thought into the insoles that were in the shoes. I always just wore what came in them and thought, hey, that's all you had. But nowadays you got a lot of options, a lot of custom insoles, and I've discovered some stuff that's pretty neat. First we're going to look at the different types of boots. Hiking, summertime hiking, day hikes, fishing is one of my favorite boots to wear for rainy wintertime stuff. Anytime you need to keep your feet dry but you want to stay lightweight, fast, agile, and comfortable. This is a Merrell Moab Gore-Tex ventilator here. Really lightweight boot, ankle length, good support, really comfortable on your feet. You really can't tell they're on there. Great hiking boot. I've hiked around 300 or 400 miles on the Appalachian Trail around Colorado, a few 14,000 foot mountains with this boot this year, and it's served me well. It's a great boot. This is a little bit heavier boot. This is actually a light backpacking boot. This is a Basque St. Elias. You can see how it's an all leather construction. It's a little bit stiffer boot. The sole is a little more rigid. It's not quite as soft and pliable as the Merrell. It's all leather all the way around. Both always Gore-Tex. I won't buy any boots that aren't Gore-Tex. It's just amazing how much difference it is. But these boots are heavier. This boot's almost a pound heavier than the Merrell, but you can see they're about not much difference in the size. The rigidity of it, you can see how stiff that is. That helps when you're walking a lot of rough terrain. It doesn't push into your feet. The Merrell's more like a tennis shoe. See how easy it twists and conforms. It fits to it does cause more wear to your feet, but you feel the ground more and you can tell what you're stepping on, and it will actually conform to stuff you step on and they grip really well. But there's trade-offs to everything with that. And of course this is the muck boot here. This is the new design from the old standby rubber boots that people have worn for years and years. You know, muck boots are really good. There's a lot of Alpha Burley and a couple other companies out there that make them. This rubber, then they come up and they turn into neoprene up here. And what this neoprene does is it grips your leg and it helps hold the heat in without actually trapping and having to put a lot of pressure on your foot. And it creates a good dead airspace in there to hold heat in your boot. And this is what I usually, when I hunt in Kentucky, mostly on farm. So there's not a whole lot of hiking, climbing mountains and stuff. And I love hunting out of these boots. They're great. You just slip them right on and you're good to go. As for insoles, this is the Superfeet Green. This is highly recommended for hikers, anyone with high arches. This is actually the green wide, so I've got a really wide foot. But you can see it has a plastic reinforcing plate on the bottom, and this helps keep your arch support up. Over the day, if you're on your feet a lot, your arches will collapse, and some people, when I went to the boot store, I went up to Rock Creek Outfitters in Chattanooga, and we were looking at boots, and they checked my foot size with me standing down, and then I stood up and stood on the measuring board, and my foot gained a half a size when I stood up without an insole. And they were like, do you wear anything in your shoes? And I reached down and pulled a pair of Superfeet out of my boots, and he's like, okay. And that helps. Like I said, it does help. The foam in here, it does help keep you warm too, to have good foam, because once this foam gets compressed in the shoe, it's not going to be real comfortable, and you're getting back into conduction where you're going to lose heat really quick. These have a real slick finish on them. They're great for hiking. They're not real bad to wear blisters, because your sock will slide on them really easy, and it won't grab your sock and cause your sock to move on your foot. Instead, what movements you have, your sock will slide on here instead of against your foot to help eliminate blisters. And the next one, this is a newer one that I tried just out of curiosity, the super feet with my arch I started getting hurting when I was hiking some real long days during the summer. I was doing 20 plus mile days on the Appalachian Trail, with a 25 to 30 pound pack. And towards the end of the day, my feet would get to really hurt, and I noticed that it seemed like the arch support wasn't doing quite as well in the super feet by the end of the day. And so I got to experimenting. These are actually the soft sole fit made for a high arch. You can see these are pretty cool looking. I think I got these at Cabela's or somewhere like that. But these, instead of a molded plastic, it is a carbon fiber. That bottom right here, this whole black piece right here, is like a carbon fiber mold to your foot. And this sucker won't bend. I mean, it'll barely flex a little bit, but the arch is built into it, so it's not going to collapse. Instead of like a lot of shoes where you have a foam built up arch support in there. Also, it's good quality EVA foam on here on top with two different types of material. See the orange on the bottom is more like a rubbery type coating, and then you got the EVA foam in the middle here. And I really like these. I've done real well with them. I've been wearing these in my Basque light backpacking boots, and they've done well for me so far. I've probably got 100, maybe 200 miles on these on backpacking, and that's about it. But they've done really well. For cold weather, I discovered these the other day. I don't know how long they've been out, but Superfeet came out with what they call the Superfeet Hunt insole. And what this is, it still has the EVA foam, it still has the plastic reinforcement to help support your arch. If you're out, walking around and you have a high arch like me, you need all the support you can get. It's still got that in there. But what they did, the gray coating here, this is actually merino wool layered on top of the EVA foam footbed. And I really noticed a difference, even though it hasn't been real cold this winter. But when I was in Kentucky, I noticed that times that when it did get cold, that I didn't have to wear as thick a sock, and my feet stayed warmer in the rubber boots because of this extra merino. That's just like an extra layer of insulation under your foot, having that merino bottom on these. And these are still fairly new to me. I've only used them for about 3 weeks of hunting, pretty much, and they did great. They're real comfortable, stayed warm, helped keep my feet warm when it did get cold. But I really like this product so far. It's doing good. It'll definitely, I'll slide these out and put them in my Merrell boots here for fishing. I love to fish in these because they're almost as light as a tennis shoe. You get good coverage. They're Gore-Tex. If something were to happen and you were to fall in, they're light enough you can still swim in them. Even though they're not insulated, you can wear them with the merino socks, the merino wool socks, and these insoles. And generally, unless you're down below freezing, it's going to keep you pretty warm.